Alright, what's up ladies and gentlemen? Hope your guys' day is going amazing. I'm here to bring you the best video on this channel yet. And I just want to dive straight into the daily principles, so yeah, let's get into it. Alright, the first major global event that I want to talk about is the EU and India trade deal. So I'm just going to start reading off the article, my summary of the article, and then I'll get into what it means for us as regular people. So let's get into it. Alright, India and the European Union finalized a major free trade agreement after nearly 2 decades of negotiation, widely described as the mother of all deals. That is directly from the article. This pact significantly reduces tariffs on the majority of trade goods between the two largest markets, covering nearly 97% of the value of EU exports, and is expected to boost trade, investments, and economic integration on a major scale. So, what does this mean for us? Basically, for us, it means over time the India and EU free trade agreement should mean lower prices on imported goods across both markets as tariffs fall, especially for manufactured products and industrial goods. So, yay to us. That's actually a positive. All right, the second thing I want to talk about is the Trump tariffs and the Korean markets. So, U.S. President Donald Trump escalated tariffs on South Korean imports, raising duties from 15 to 25% on autos, lumber, and pharmaceuticals due to delays in a trade deal. Markets initially dipped but rebounded strongly, with major Asian and global indexes still pushing higher, indicating investors are viewing the pullback as an opportunity to buy. So, I guess now is a good time to buy, but this is not financial advice. Alright, so again, what does this mean for us? Because I use a lot of big words here, and I just want to kind of give a brief summary quickly for those people who don't want to watch that. They can just skip ahead to this and figure out what it means for, us as regular people. Basically, US tariff hikes on South Korean products could translate into higher prices on certain imported vehicles and pharmaceuticals unless supply chains adjust. That is a brief summary. That it could be completely wrong. I wrote this myself, so please double check this if it's important to you in any way. All right. 3. Fed policy and market positioning ahead of decision. Markets are positioned for the Federal Reserve's upcoming rate decision. The expectation is no changes in interest rates, but investors are closely watching for signals about future policy direction. And the Fed's independence is a focal point of debate, especially against the backdrop of political pressure on central bank leadership. I don't really have an explanation as to what this means for us yet, but seeing as how there will be no change, the expectation is no changes in interest rates, that means, borrowing, I think it's expensive right now. Let me double check the interest rate. I'll throw it up on the screen. Okay, so right now we're at a 3.5, which I believe is excellent. So that means our economy is kind of growing right now. So I think, I could be wrong again. I just studied economics. So if it goes down even more, that'll be even better. That means the economy is expanding. But if interest rates go up, then yeah, the economy is slowing down and borrowing is going to become more expensive for everyone. And yeah, I guess that's bad for us if it goes up. Well, in general, it will be. All right, next thing I want to talk about, global equities and risk assets. Global equities continue their upward momentum, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ reaching record highs. Congratulations to them, and congratulations to you if you invested. As corporate earnings optimism supports markets. Tech earnings in particular are driving confidence even as broad geopolitical and tariff noise persists. Safe haven demand also remains strong, keeping precious metals elevated. So gold and silver have not dipped, and I believe they're still at their all-time high. Not sure. Let me double check that one. Yeah, so gold is still at an all-time high, so that's good. All right, next. UK economic support package announced. The UK government announced an 80 million support package aimed at reducing business rates for pubs and live music venues. So this is not important if you're in the US. So if you're not in the US, just skip to the next part. Okay, in response to industry opposition to recent tax reforms, this policy reflects broader attempts by Western governments to reduce inflationary pressures on small businesses and support local economic activities. 6. U.S. consumer confidences drop sharply. That is the name of the article. I'm giving the summary now. In January 2026, U.S. consumer confidence fell to its lowest level since 2014, driven by worries. All right, next page. Driven by worries about inflation, tariffs, political uncertainty, and weakening job outlook. This survey result sends an early warning signal about domestic spending and economic sentiment, which can influence policy, decision, and growth forecasts. So I have a summary of what this means for us as regular people, and it is not the best. Falling consumer confidence in the US suggests people may feel less secure about jobs and spending, which often leads to slower retail growth or more cautious household budgets. Alright, 7. UK-China strategic engagement. British Prime Minister, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Not that it's complicated, I'm just going to butcher it. Alright. British Prime Minister traveled to Beijing seeking to recalibrate economic ties with China and global volatility. This visit highlights how mid-sized powers are pursuing pragmatic economic engagement with China while balancing national security concerns, a sign of shifting global alignment. All right, I'm just going to give a brief summary of everything I've talked about. All right, first, economics and markets. The India-EU free trade deal creates one of the largest preferential trading zones globally, significantly lowering tariffs on most goods and signaling a shift in the global trade architecture. Tariff escalation by the US, particularly on South Korean imports, remains a meaningful wildcard for markets and supply chains, but isn't derailing equity momentum right now. All right, central bank policy. Central bank policy is still front and center. With rates expected to stay steady, markets are trading anticipation rather than reaction, showing how important guidance and leadership clarity are in this environment. Global stocks hitting records. Despite geopolitical friction suggests continued risk tolerance, but safe haven demand staying elevated highlights persistent caution. All right, trade and geopolitics. The India-EU agreement is strategically significant. It reduces dependencies on... I misspelled that so bad. On protectionist blocks and diversifies trade corridors amid ongoing trade tensions elsewhere. Mid-sized economies in the UK are actively diversifying foreign partnerships, especially with China reflecting a broader trend of pragmatic geopolitical over rigid alliances. Public sentiment and domestic economy. U.S. consumer confidence weakening matters because it often leads spending trends which feed directly into GDP growth and policy choices. Slower confidence can mean slower growth. Government support measures like the UK business rates package show policymakers are aware of inflationary stress on local economies and are taking targeted action. So yeah, that basically sums up all the major global events that happened that specifically impact us importantly. I gave a brief summary. Hopefully I did good explaining that. If I didn't, please let me know how I can improve. And yeah, let's get into the next thing I want to talk about, which again is more on the philosophical, personal side as usual. All right, so there we go. All right, I filmed this section and I was unhappy with the way it turned out, so I'm going to refilm it because this is something I'm extremely passionate about. I'm actually extremely passionate about everything that I talk about on this channel and all the topics that I talk about. But this one in particular, because this is something like a lot of other things on my channel I experience, but I experience this every single day almost. And a lot of other people experience this too. And what I'm talking about is haters. We all have haters. It's the process of life. You're gonna have people that hate you. But what a lot of people do is they get the haters to hate on them, and then they take it and then they get sad at it. But what you should do, and what I do, which really helps me, and I really, really hope you guys can implement this so it helps you, is I take that hate And I remember that the best form of revenge is success. And I do something. I think about how I can get successful, how I can get successful compared to those other people. So I go out, I work so hard, I think about it, I imagine that moment that I feel I'll become more successful, the moment I become more successful than them. I imagine it a million times over and over again. And then when that moment finally hits, I won. Because I used those haters. Those haters motivated me. They helped me. Unlike what 90% of other people do, they have haters that hate on them. They get upset. They don't get motivated. And they just give up completely. What you should do is use your haters, motivate yourself, and get to a point where you're better than your haters. When you can show them that you're better. When you can be better because you know that you're better. And they'll see it, and they'll keep hating on you, but their hate no longer has any meaning to you because they're no one compared to who you are. And I want you guys to take that. I want you guys to implement that as much as you can, because that is honestly, if you can master getting motivated from your haters, that'll help you in so many stages of life, and that'll help you not only in your stages of life, it'll help you in your day-to-day life as well. So please take the hate and use it for revenge, but don't use it for the bad kind of revenge. Use it for the good kind of revenge, because the best form of revenge is success, like I said. Use it to become more successful than them. And I cannot say this enough. Success, once you become successful compared to that person will no longer mean anything to you, and you'll feel so much better. And you got there in the end. They stayed where they were because they kept hating on you, because they didn't have the strength to do what you did, and that's why they were hating on you to begin with. So keep going, keep working, and I urge you to use that motivation every single day. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day or night, depending on where you are, what time it is, and like I said, thank you for watching.